Hi, everyone. Welcome to All Things Iceland. And I'm so excited for my interview today with the lovely April Anderson, who is the director, editor, and cinematographer of the documentary Fire and Iceland. I was very fortunate to be able to check it out, and it's a beautiful collection, of course, visually, of the eruption that started on March 19th, changed a lot of our lives, but also insight into Icelandic culture with lots of interviews with different individuals, which we, of course, will go into. And for those who are interested in watching it, whether you actually visited the volcano or not, I know it was all over the news globally. So many people at least got to see some shots of it. You can check out the link in the description box or the show notes, whichever you're, listening to audio wise or watching this on YouTube in order to watch the video yourself, either on Vimeo or Prime Video. So both those links will be there for you to check out. And I think this is one of those things to sit down with the family, have some popcorn, and learn some stuff as well as be visually stunned because it is gorgeous. So welcome to April.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. Thank you so much. It's like, I don't have to do anything anymore. I can just take my camera and go home.
Yeah, exactly. Interview over. No, there's a lot here for me, at least, as a person who, like yourself, I'm from New York City. And so coming from a place like New York City where it's also fascinating aspects to it, and it's like the concrete jungle, to then coming to Iceland where the nature is literally just in your face. And in this case, they call it, a tourist volcano, which is hilarious to anyone who's been to a volcano because it's like, this is serious business. But before we get into that, I would love for you to talk about, at least give people an understanding about Art as Air project, which this documentary falls under for your website and things like that. So if you could explain that so people get an idea of some of the work that you do.
Well, the Art as Air project, I started in 2012. And we began by doing interviews and profiles of artists from all different genres, all different walks of life. And our goal was to kind of like showcase different types of art, different types of art sensibilities, and really kind of dive into what drives the passion for you to create something, for you to want to put your art out there in the world. Mm-hmm. So that was the primary goal. We started out with a few different profiles of, we had a tattoo artist, we had a great songwriter, Desmond Child, who actually wrote songs for John Bon Jovi and Kiss and nice. A million other people, Barbra Streisand. And we did also a profile on the artist Andy Golub, who is a New York City artist who actually paints nude people in the street.
In the streets?
In the street.
This is so New York, I tell you.
It is. It is. It was actually really cool because I kind of like happened upon him doing like his first body
in the process.
Yeah. Actually, he keeps his clothes on usually, but the models are nude, and he does intricate paintings all over their bodies. I came across him by chance in the street in 2014.
Yeah.
And just kind of reached out, and we kind of like formed an alliance. We did our first body painting day documentary, which was called Beyond the Paint, and kind of profiled Andy. We went to Brussels with him to do a Brussels body painting day. So he was like spreading the naked goodness all over the world.
That's fascinating.
But so that was fun. And then in 2014, we also went to Iceland for the first time. Yes, we fell in love with Iceland. We came back on the plane. We met a young couple who had just gotten married. They were coming here on a hop over to their honeymoon. And we kind of, Facebook being the great equalizer, we became Facebook friends, and we kept in touch. So the following year, we went and I spent a day with them, and he introduced us to the family horses, his parents' horses. And we fell in love with the horses too, because what's not to love?
Yeah. They're
So
also so curious animals. Like it's ridiculous,
they're like
actually.
puppies.
Yeah.
They're like puppies. They follow you around. They chew on your wires.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing over
Exactly.
here? What are you doing?
They
So,
want to be the center of attention in the
oh
video. Like I did
yes,
a short video about horses, and yet
you
literally
did.
one of the horses was pushing me out of the way
Yes,
to get to the
yes.
camera. And I was like, you know what? You're a star. I get it, but chill out.
That must have been adorable. I mean, but yeah, to be up close and personal with them was really special. We actually filmed that in 2018.
Hmm.
We released it in 2019. It's on Amazon, also on Prime Video,
Okay.
um, and we got we got a lot of great feedback because first of all, Iceland touches kind of a nice space in people.
Hmm.
It's like, oh my God, Iceland. It's like so raw and it's Vikings and it's this and it's
Yeah.
volcanoes and that. And it's like, yeah, but it's also deeper than that because
Hmm.
it's like it's like traveling from planet to planet as you drive through. You
Hmm.
can be like in one planet and then 5 minutes later you'll drive through another planet, and it's really literally the most amazing place we've ever been.
Nice.
And there's a wealth of things to document. So we were kind of looking around after Tales of Iceland for a new project.
Hmm.
And then March 19th, 2021, boom, the volcano happened. And it's like,
Exactly.
we're sitting here in New York going, there's no flights. How are we going to get there? There's no flights.
Yeah.
So we had to actually wait until May 2nd, which was the first flight out of
No
New York.
way.
Yes, way.
Wow. I did not
Yeah.
realize you had to wait that long.
Oh my God, it was excruciating.
Yeah, that's intense. Okay.
Yes. So we got the first flight out, which was canceled. So we actually had to like rent a car on the fly and drive up to Boston because they were flying in and out.
Right.
And
Yes,
we,
that is
yeah.
true. Yeah.
So we took that flight out and we got there and it was like it was literally in, the most incredible experience. I mean, being that close to that raw primal
Yeah.
power, that is a volcano, and how it's just it's you have no control over it. You don't know
Yeah.
what it's going to do next. I mean, a rift could have opened up right next to me, and I was like, okay, what a way to go.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like if I have to die.
don't want to, but all
Yeah.
right.
Granted, I'm sure you were being careful. I mean, we're joking about it, but the thing is good is that you're like, well, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's true. Well, it's true because Valor Gredison, who is one of the people who is in the film, he said Icelanders don't die from a volcano. They die on the way to the volcano and the way back from the volcano,
Hmm.
and that's what it felt like. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to break a leg. I'm going to do this. But it's like getting out of your comfort zone like that
Yes.
was everything. Just actually digging deep, finding the reserves, and actually doing it. Because
Yes.
it was not an easy hike, especially for us who've been sitting in our apartment for the last 2 years. But it was phenomenal. The people we met were amazing. Everybody was so gracious with their time,
Great.
and we feel like we really were able to get something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say you accomplished quite a great feat in terms of the amount of people you talked to and the different insights that you got. So well done for
Thank
sure.
you, thank you.
And I mean, in terms of, you already kind of talked about this already, being that you've done a documentary about Icelandic horses and being kind of so in love, with Iceland, which I understand 1,000%.
Well, you do because you came there from New York. I mean, did you
Mhm.
go on a whim or did you go like with the intent of moving there, or how did you
Yeah,
get there?
I did go on the intent just because my husband is Icelandic. So this
So
was
you
a
met him not in
I met
Iceland.
him in New York many years ago, though. The thing that's so funny
Oh,
is that before we ever were a couple, I met him. We both were in college. He was in college in the U.S. Oh, no, sorry. I was in college in the U.S. He was in college in Iceland, and he was visiting a mutual friend. So I met like the only Icelander on campus. The
well
school
done
I was at,
you.
he had mutual friends coming over from Iceland, and yeah, and then like many years after that is when Ganat and I ended up getting together. So it's just like you just never know who you meet in your life that will help to change your life or, be a part of your journey.
That is so true. That is
Yeah.
so true. And and there are so many people, so many kind of like there's so much input
Mm-hmm.
into your life that if you allow it to happen,
Yes,
really.
that's another thing. You have to be open to the possibilities that miracles happen every day, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Einstein that said it, but there is a person who said that there's two types of people. The person who believes that miracles happen every day, and then the person that doesn't believe this at all, right? And so it's like this idea that like
Well,
anything can
they're kind of
happen to me.
sad. The
Yeah,
second ones are kind of sad.
that's true, but I think it is. I think it comes down like you said, a mindset, and that mindset
Yeah.
sometimes like really brings things to you because you're attracting this energy. So you just never know where life might take you if you believe that it can take you anywhere.
Well, that's hopefully the plan. I
Yes.
mean, you've made a whole new life there,
Yeah.
and we're talking about actually maybe going there part time later on, depending on
Nice.
our job situations and everything. So, because that's how much we love it, and the
Yeah.
people. We've gotten a really close bunch of friends, and it's really it's a fabulous experience being there.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know, I mean, maybe you're aware of this already, April, but there is a program that the government has where people can come and stay here for up to 6 months doing remote
Yes,
work. Yeah.
yes,
So that's like
we're
opened
actually
up a
exploring that.
yeah. That's opening up a lot of opportunities for people who've always wanted to at least try out living in Iceland and seeing how that goes for them. So
Well, one of the people that the my co-producer on Tales of Iceland and on Fire in Iceland, Erna Arnardóttir, which
mhm.
of course I'm mispronouncing. She is a human resources person, so
Yeah.
yeah,
There you go, right? Make the
in her
right
spare
connections.
time.
Exactly. So okay, into the documentary though. So
Yes,
about uh the inspiration behind it. Was it really like the volcano erupted and we need to get there because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity? Like what was going through your mind when you're like, we have to document this?
that, yes, that, um, and just the opportunity to have another life-changing, life-altering, creative experience like we did with Tales of Iceland.
Hmm.
We were ripe for a new project. We were kind of looking around, going, "Well, okay, yeah, fine, okay, we could do that. Oh, we could go to the volcano." So, okay, there was no choice.
Yeah.
We had to go, and then it's funny because I am a super control freak,
Okay.
and but these processes are really good for me because I kind of like have to let go and just see what happens,
Mm,
and not try and plan too much. So, and my husband Martin, flies the drones. He does the
nice.
soundtrack, the music, and so we do everything in house. So, it's really it's really up to us to
Hmm.
make whatever we can as good as we can as an accurate representation of what our experience was.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. And I didn't realize Martin is your husband, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So he's the
In
one who
house,
reached out.
baby. In house.
That's, and if you want to keep it all, keep it small, right? So,
Yep,
like,
exactly. Exactly.
and I was wondering because there's a person in the documentary who went to the volcano 67 times.
Adam.
Wow.
Adam Kaksuba. He actually
Yeah.
Adam was a lifesaver in this process
Okay.
because he went 67 times and he filmed it every time he
Mm,
went. And he was so gracious and forthcoming with his footage. We reached
wow.
out to him, we found him on Facebook. Huh, again.
What?
Yes, believe.
That's
So yeah,
insane.
well,
Wow.
I have to say that Facebook is highly underrated as a tool, for
Mm,
connecting. And while it might even embarrass some people to say so, I'm not embarrassed. I use it.
no.
I use it as much as I can to like make connections, and it's worked out really well as a tool.
Hmm.
Um, but Adam, we reached out to him. He was like, "Yeah, okay, you can have whatever you want." And I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
he sent us tons of footage that I was able to actually do a kind of a chronology of how it
Hmm.
happened from the very beginning And of course, Valor Gredison was a great narrator uh,
Mm-hmm.
with the whole story of it, which was throughout the film as well.
Yes.
So between the narration, the verbal narration, and the film footage, um, we were able to actually capture what we had not been able to capture
That's
by
great.
only being able to go there. We actually went in May and we went again in the summer. And by the
Okay.
summer, it was a whole different volcano. You couldn't even
Yes.
get close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah,
Martin got some really
absolutely.
great footage.
Yeah. He was on point. But I talked to a person recently, literally yesterday. I'm gonna say his name wrong because it's Belgian
Well,
and
join the
difficult.
club.
Yeah, but he's not Icelandic. He's Belgian and it's like Jarun or Jurun or something like that. But
Yes,
anyway,
yes, I've seen his. He came out with a book, didn't he?
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what he and I were talking about was this book,
Yes.
and it was funny because I was like, "Do you know April?" And he's like, "No, but I know of her." And I was like, "Okay." It was kind of funny having these
Cool.
like
Well, I know of
conversations.
him too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
he
yeah,
takes
he
some
he went
amazing.
44 times,
Yes,
and I was just like,
amazing photographs.
"Yeah," and I went 3 times, and I was like, "That's good for me." Like, this is a lot to
Because
even
it wasn't easy, was it?
no, especially
No.
in the beginning. In the beginning when
Yes.
it
Did you go
first
in the
erupted.
beginning?
Yeah, I went like not the very first because they were telling people to not go too close, like too early. But I did go, and the hike we hiked from near the Blue Lagoon, which
Oh
is
my gosh.
insanely long.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if I'd ever actually that's not true. I've hiked that long before, but I had actually trained to go on like days long hikes in the past. At this point, like you mentioned, COVID sitting around, whatever, most of us were just kind of like inside trying to wait out this whole pandemic situation. And then it was like, okay, we're getting up and going hiking in like rugged terrain.
It's like from 0 to 60 in five
Yeah,
seconds. Yeah.
it was pretty intense. So it's just hearing people like this that have gone, 44 times, 67 times, and you're just like, that sounds like a great workout. But in
I
reality,
bow to
after
them.
I'd gone a few times, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm enjoying
Anything,
everybody else's footage.
anything, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really applaud those who went so many times because they really have a historic documentation of the
Hmm.
cycles and phases, and that's truly an amazing accomplishment. So,
Agreed. And
yeah.
Valid, who you were talking about, which most people, well, I don't know how much of a crossover there is of people who watch my channel and the regular Grapevine, which I love the Grapevine. They were a huge part of like why I felt comfortable
Yes.
moving to Iceland and like getting Icelandic news and English and everything. So he's the editor in chief there for anyone who's maybe recognizing the name when you're saying it. And he's
Mhm.
in this documentary giving his opinion, and he went many times as well. So I'm wondering how many times he went because they were also like broadcasting from there often.
It's a good question, but he and Art Bicknick,
Yeah.
who is like his cameraman, they had some incredible stuff. I mean, some of
Mhm.
the stuff that they filmed of him like in front of the volcano and in front of the creeping lava, and
Yeah.
it was, yeah, that was truly amazing. It was
Very
great,
cool.
great journalism.
Yes. And instead of just basing though the documentary on the fact that there's lava spewing out of the earth, which honestly is enough for many people, you went deeper. And like you mentioned, there's a whole lot more that's deeper here. And in Icelandic history, there is a lot that's happened with volcanic eruptions and destruction. And with this one, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's a tourist eruption.
I love
But
that name.
yeah, but you talk about volcanic culture, and
That's actually a phrase that I kind of I think I coined, but I coined it to kind of describe the fact that volcanoes are volcanoes. I mean, they are a fact that they happen, and
Mhm.
they're beautiful sometimes, they're deadly other times. You never know which way it's going to go with a volcano. But the people who live there, who are in the shadow of the volcanoes, they're the ones that we wanted to capture what their sensibility is, what
Mhm.
their life is like. Do they think about it all the time? Do they just kind of like say, oh, well, if it happens, it happens? Which we got varying,
Mhm.
opinions of what the actual volcanic culture is in Iceland. But I think being able to interview a wide variety of people of different walks of life, different, creative and non-creative aspects, I think was kind of valuable for the whole picture.
Hmm.
That it's not just a really pretty thing that
Yeah.
nature you.
Exactly. And I appreciated that insight because I think it really hones in on Icelandic culture and people asking this question like, why would you live in a place where your life can be in danger? And I remember thinking this myself when I first, not even when I moved, but when I first thought about moving and I heard about the eruption that happened on the Westman Islands in the 70s, in 1970s. And
73, yeah.
okay. Hmm?
1973. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that to me was like, whoa, no, I would not want that to happen to me. And then after living here, it was like, oh, well, things happen and, we do our best to mitigate these like different things, but we're here, we're living, and we can't control everything. And there is this aspect of like, for my personal life changing, but also seeing people who've grown up with it or even talk to like my Icelandic family and hearing this kind of it'll be fine. Let's not put worry into that type of, this future and, we'll deal with it when it happens.
Well, that is a key aspect of Icelandic culture in my experience, is
Hmm.
that they don't worry about things like that, and they just make. That's why a lot of times you can't force them to make a plan.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
it's like, well, let's see. There could be a thunderstorm here, a volcano over here. It could be, when we get closer, that kind. It's kind of a pragmatic acceptance of
Hmm.
actual, that, as Julius from the Lava Show said, that nature can speak when she wants to,
Hmm.
and there's absolutely no control we have over that.
Yes.
So
And everyone must listen. Like you don't have a choice.
no, it's true. And I mean, for you going there and being in this kind of, I mean, here in New York, we could get blown up or stabbed or,
Yeah, I
or
mean, there's
whatever.
definitely.
I mean, those are little things to us. They're like, yeah, whatever. Well, that, yeah, whatever is the same kind of sensibility that they have toward
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah, with a larger force at play. I feel like watching your back it's very helpful, but it's also so different than being like, oh yeah, that volcano is about to like swallow my house.
Exactly. Exactly. And it teaches you not to grow too attached to anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's super fascinating. And thankfully, this volcano, for those who might not be aware of it, was not something that put people's lives in dangers in terms of like homes or towns and things. It literally, the reason why it's a tourist volcano is because people could go and enjoy it. There's easy access, easy meaning relatively, either by plane, hiking. Some people had car access if they, had media rights or whatever, but very few
Mhm.
people got that. And then, of course, the majority of people walked. So
Well,
that in itself is
there was
unique.
also, yeah, there was also the fact that coming right out on the heels of the pandemic, it
Mm,
kind of like it kind of brought tourism back to
hmm.
Iceland in a big way, in a hurry. I mean, we know because they'd gotten rid of their cars, rental cars, during the
Yes.
pandemic because there
Yeah.
were no takers, and then we came and we were like, we could. It was like really hard pressed to actually get a rental car for the summer of 2021,
Yeah.
and it was like it's insanely expensive because they were
Yes.
still trying to recover, trying to get back their stock. But it's like, but that little volcano really helped get Iceland back on the path to economic recovery.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's still now people are like, we could use another one of those.
Okay, I'm
It's
happy.
like,
Okay, bring it.
yeah, exactly. It's like hopefully we'll also be in another place. Like Katla, for instance. I mean, you talk about this with Julius, and that is a very precarious situation
Yes, it
because
is.
it's not just that, of course, the access to it is there, but the literal amount of flooding, the glacial flooding would wipe out Vik. It would just be gone. And that part to me is super fascinating. And also, that's where I go, like, I'm glad I don't live in Vik. No offense to anyone in Vik, but that is really intense. And I
Well,
know one person who lives there, and I'm like, girl,
oh yeah.
please be careful.
Woo.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, like you said, that they have a kind of emergency response system whereby
Mhm.
if Katla goes, they'll have 15 minutes to grab their belongings and go. So I'm sure everybody's got a go bag in
Yes.
Vic in Vik. I mean, I wish I could pronounce everything like you
Yeah.
because I'm really
Well,
envious of your pronunciation. You're like flawless in your pronunciation.
oh, thank you. Well, this one is Vik. So
Vik.
yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Okay. Going forward, it's Vik.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
You got it. Just like that. I think it literally just takes the like slight hints or like pronunciation tips, because a lot of Icelandic, granted, there are some tongue twisters that are ridiculous, right? But there are some words that I think it's more of when we see the word versus how it's said can feel very confusing to our brain, because the way Vik is spelled is Vik, but a special I in Icelandic. So when you see it, you say Vik, which is totally makes sense when you
Well,
speak English.
that's the
Yeah,
tourist pronunciation.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I
exactly.
haven't graduated yet for my tourist pronunciation.
You're
Because
getting it
we
though.
can talk about AFIT
Yeah.
like, oh my God, okay. If I can master that one, I can master almost anything.
Yes, you'll definitely get it. And if you want any help with that one, let me know. I'm actually making a video about that because I think it's pretty
Oh, well, I'll be
fascinating.
watching that one.
Yeah. It'll be on TikTok because that's
Awesome.
where I am these days. But
Awesome.
and you also talked to ISAR, which I think this is another aspect of Icelandic culture that
Mhm.
even if you're not thinking about the eruption, it is so beautiful and also unusual to see that there are many teams. I think there's at least 9 teams or something of people who are part of the Icelandic search and
Mhm.
rescue team who are 100% volunteer based. They do
Mhm.
not get paid. They
Mhm.
buy their own equipment and
Equipment,
everything. So
uniforms. Mhm.
yeah, and I think that was just something to me when I first found out about that. I was like, wait, what? Why? And then they're like, but they're so proud.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like when, especially Ollie John, who is part of the ISAR team, he was like, "I want to be here as a volunteer, not as a paid employee." It's like I felt like there should be a spit after that. Paid employee, pooey. So yeah, they were all they're the ones who kept everybody safe.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny because Martin, my husband, cut his fingers on the drone, and so he's featured in a little
That's Martin?
piece. That's
Okay, I
Martin.
didn't realize.
Yeah,
I thought that was just a
yeah,
random person. I had no
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah. He played the part of the stupid tourist.
Yeah, that looked like it was really painful too. Ooh.
That was fine.
I like how you're like, he's good.
Like, I'm the asshole who didn't put the camera down to help him, but I was
Oh,
like, there was everybody stepping in. And I'm like, I'm getting this.
you're like, this is the perfect
Heartless,
opportunity.
heartless.
The real like director in you was like, no, 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 don't even look at the camera, just keep
Don't
going.
stop rolling.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, I'm glad his fingers are all intact though.
Oh, they're fine.
And in terms of impact for you as a creator, of course, but then as a person, like how did you feel after having experienced this eruption?
I was, it's funny because you go through life and you have experiences that are like one of a kind experiences that will probably never be repeated as far as the
Mhm.
intensity and the drama. And it almost like sets you up to be like, well, everything else is going to be like, what am I going to do now? Because everything else is going to be like kind of So yeah, it kind of spoils you for one.
Mhm.
But at the same time, the entire process was really so mind blowing in its impact on our creative lives.
Mhm.
Witnessing it, being able to document it, and at the same time, being I was terrified a lot
Mhm.
because
Okay.
it's like, am I going to break a leg? Because, you heard the SAR guys say there's like broken legs, broken
Yep.
bones, there's heart attacks and strokes. And I'm like, okay, am I going to be a statistic or am I going to make it? So again, it's getting out of your comfort zone and actually expanding, your horizon to
Mhm.
encompass something like this and just doing it as opposed to being afraid and backing down and not doing it,
Right.
which I never would have forgiven myself for.
Right.
So I feel like it was the ultimate experience. It really was. But there
That's
could be
awesome.
another one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there will be. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
the nature of Iceland. It's just more of if that one will be as accessible as this one. And
Yeah.
there's a good chance that it won't be, but you never know. I mean, no one was expecting this one to go off. And
Yes.
there we go, so.
No one, not even the authorities, not
Right.
even the geologists.
There was literally a geologist who, the night of the volcano, this has got to be so embarrassing.
Yes.
To be like, there will not be a volcano eruption. Volcanic
Right
eruption.
behind
And it's
him.
like, bloop.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh,
oh,
yes, there is.
JK. We're talking about like the
Hello.
ultimate punked moment of
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah. Not one a geologist wants.
No. But at the same time, I think also the language around the eruption kept, they kept keeping it loose and open to be like, we don't know how long, blah, blah, blah. Also to mitigate all of these
The fact that
questions.
they really
Because,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows how these things work. Nobody knows how they will they when they'll start, when they stop. They're basically reporting,
Yes.
which is fine because they have a lot of science behind them in their reporting.
Exactly.
But you can't predict, you can't say, how again, we were hoping it was going to go on for a few years so that we could go back again
Yeah.
and just capture different phases. But it kind of was fitting that it lasted 6 months. It went from this phase to this phase to this phase, and then there was an end point. And it was like, well, this is great for the documentary.
Mm-hmm. And well, I mean, you're going to be having your premiere of it here in Iceland, in Reykjavik, which I'm excited to be.
Yes, I'm excited to meet you.
Yeah, likewise at Bíóparadís. And so for people who do come to Iceland, I highly recommend going to this independent theater because that's how you keep them alive. They are not one of those theaters that just focuses on like what's the most popular blockbuster, but rather art and really culture and giving a platform to different types of artists who are doing independent work. So big fan of them.
Yes,
so I'm glad that you're
too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's also like literally in downtown Reykjavik, so it's so easy to get to and enjoy.
Yeah,
and there's a great Indian restaurant next to it. Have you been there?
No, but we're going to go now that you said that.
So good. So it's called Oyster India Félagið, which is like East Indian community, I guess. And their food is amazing.
Again with the perfect pronunciation.
It's and when you go in there, it feels like you're transformed into another world. Like on the outside, you're just like, is this the place? And you go in, you're like, this is gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful. You would never assume that this is right next door, but it is, and I highly recommend.
Awesome. So I'm taking that
for a treat.
Yay.
And during the documentary, though, so because you mentioned that, it was challenging. Was there anything while you were either capturing like behind the scenes stuff that surprised you, or that when someone said something, you were like, oh, interesting?
Oh, so many things. So many things. I mean, just actually coming from where we come from, the other side of the pond, it's a whole different way of, again, getting back to how they look at life, how they look at, their place in nature, which is really interesting because they have carved a niche in nature in Iceland in order to survive. They have the geothermal, they have, all of these, they're very innovative with their technologies, which I really respect.
Yeah.
And not steeped in fossil fuels, and just like actually paving the way for the future without that. And without other key elements that are going by the wayside soon, in the next century. So it was super interesting just getting everybody's take on not just, again, it was about a volcano, but it wasn't about a volcano.
Right.
It was really about the people. And that's really what we like to focus on in all of our documentaries, because it is about the connection, and exploring that is half the fun.
Exactly. And I don't want to give too much away about the documentary, because it is, like we're talking about, it's integrating so much insight and culture, and also has GDRN, so Guðrún, who is the star of the Netflix series Katla, which is kind of funny that we talk about Katla and the volcano and how it's transformative of people's lives. Have you seen that series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as it came out, sure. Yeah. She's amazing in it. It was her first acting.
Her first time acting. I was like,
oh my God,
girl.
I know.
Clearly. She's so talented. I love her music also.
Well, yeah, and she talked about how Icelandic songwriters many times use nature as a kind of a cover for emotion.
Yes.
So, and it's funny because in my experience with interviewing Icelandic people, you almost have to many times just crack them. You have to crack them and get into, and get past the cooled magma surface, to use a metaphor, and just kind of like dig a little deeper because there's a wealth underneath that.
Agreed. Yeah, that is 1,000% true. A lot of Icelanders come off as pretty cold and distant.
Yeah.
But they are often, like you're saying, I don't know if you can call it shyness, but there is this like reserved type of attitude when they first meet someone. And then all of a sudden it's just like, once you're in, you're in. They really like.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, you live there, you have experienced this, I'm sure, many times over, especially with your series, your interviews.
Yes.
I'm sure you interview a lot of Icelandic people, and I'm sure you can vouch for that because it's really a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably my most favorite, and I only mention this one because he is literally one of the hardest nuts to crack. His name is Kári Stefánsson, and he's the creator of Decode Genetics, which like has done groundbreaking genetics work in Iceland that's like paved the way for other countries when it comes to like mapping a population and then coming up with like genes and ideas for how to find treatment for diseases that might be genetic and stuff. Anyway, so he is what I would call like the ultimate curmudgeon. And so when you first meet him, there is this like, has this almost like testing you to see what kind of person you are. And then it just becomes, he just like opens up once he feels like you're okay. Yeah. And I was like, that was the weird, at the beginning of my interview, I thought that this was going to be horrible. And it ended up having a great time. And even after the interview, chatting and laughing. And I was like, who was the person I met at the beginning? I'm so confused. But yeah, there are people who are that extreme. But of course, most people are not as intense, but they just have a little bit of like reservation that you have to get past.
Yeah, I had that with Ragnar Sigurdsson, the photographer. Because they don't know what to expect from you. They don't know, you're going to ask a stupid question. What do I do if you ask a stupid question and I don't know how to answer it? It's like, and I get it. I totally get it. Who are you? I don't know. So, I went in and I just kind of like, just hung a little bit. And he gave me one of the best interviews of the documentary, just talking about his experience. It's like in that calm, sweet voice, and those pictures are like, they're like phenomenal.
From the 80s.
Oh my God, I know. It's like he has so much documentation of so many. I mean, he's got like 5 million photographs.
Insane.
I mean, it's like 5 million. I couldn't be alive that long to take 5 million pictures, but he has.
Yeah,
and he's still.
And he also has access that no one, like the majority of people, are not getting on. In fact, hardly anyone's getting on a Coast Guard plane, a helicopter, and go into the volcano, right? Like that's just not happening.
Yeah, he did have some perks.
Talk about the ultimate hookup.
Wow.
But he deserves it because he's been documenting Iceland and helping to promote Iceland for decades.
Yes. So what a sweet man. We're BFFs on Facebook now.
Oh, which when you watch the documentary, that's the thing that is so interesting to me is the shot that is straight on with him. His eyes are so sweet. And he just has like, you could tell when he's talking about his work, he's so passionate that it was beautiful to watch him talk. And I was like, oh, this guy he loves his life. He loves his job.
He's such an amazing person. I loved interviewing him and meeting him and, and loved like that we were able to document him, because this is going to be his legacy, as he said.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And it's funny that he said, I want that to be my legacy. I was like, dude, it is your legacy. You've already gotten into that point of being a legend.
Done.
But, I understand he feels like there's so much more to capture.
It's done and done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my last question for you, which I ask everybody, is what is your favorite? Yeah. That's you already have it. Your favorite Icelandic word or phrase?
Well, it's like trying to pronounce this is like, oh my God, like what do I do now? What way do I wrap my tongue now?
Do you want to go over pronouncing it now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So it's good, I think, to break the word down. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you do that, Eyjafjallajökull is how you say it
Fiat.
together. But
Yeah, there's a
Eyja,
Fiat.
so we
Eya.
start with Eyja, like
Eya.
A, yeah, Eyja,
Eya.
yeah. And then there's a double L sound that happens.
Yeah.
And what I do to practice these double L sounds is I do this like sucking in or blowing out of air through my teeth while they're together. It's like this. Because I will help you do this double L sound. So Fjalla.
Fjätla.
Mm-hmm. Jökull.
You good.
There
Good.
you go.
Oh, yeah, good. You have
Yep,
had the
yep, yeah,
at
exactly.
the end.
That's that sound. So it's like Eya,
Eya.
Fjalla,
Fjätla.
Jökull.
You're good. You're that last part
Yogurt.
gets me. You're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
You're
Almost
good.
like yogurt. Yeah.
You're
Good.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Right. Well, you might have to stand up at the premiere and actually, we'll do a little back and forth. Okay, I'll say a volcano and you give the pronunciation.
No. But yeah, so Eyjafjallajökull is
Eyjafjallajökull.
it's getting there. It just see, there's already
Fiat. I have to remember the
Fjalla.
Eyjafjallajökull.
Yeah.
And that at the end.
What's like another part of it, like I mentioned before, is like when you're visually thinking of the word and then saying it, that can screw you up because of how we say two L's together and how Icelanders say double L. Sometimes is not always the case in every word. I have to say that because I'd be an Icelander, be like, not always. And I'm like, I know. I
Well, it's like
agree.
English. English is a very difficult language because
Yes.
it's like hardly ever the same pronunciation with, the same number of letters in a word.
And
So,
homonyms.
yeah, I get it.
Oh my gosh. Like they, no, there.
Oh, yeah. It's like, can we simplify this? Can we just please simplify that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, thank you for the lesson. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and I will, and I'll have to like hit you up for more.
No problem at all. And so, is that your favorite word then? Eyjafjallajökull.
Yeah, well, it's the one I've been practicing the most. Obviously, really not to any great benefits.
I'm gonna put it up on the screen then, so people can see what we're talking about. Because people will be like, "What do you mean by this word?"
Okay. I don't know. It's a volcano. It goes boom.
Yeah, it's like, and this is the one that went off in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and basically put Iceland on the map. So a lot of people are unaware of the fact that
they put it on the map and took it off the map at the same time.
Exactly. It was like, and you can't come here.
Yeah, nanny boo.
So okay.
There it is.
So this is what I mean by the two double L's that happen in Fjalla and Jökull. And this special character O that has the two dots.
And there's a J in there, just for good measure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's like, let's have 3 J's.
Yeah, let's have 3 J's because 2 was not enough, and neither is 1. Good.
Yeah. We'll definitely.
I'll practice it.
Lessons as you like.
Awesome.
But my pleasure. And of course, those who want to check out the documentary, it's not expensive at all. Actually, if you want to watch it, and it's a fun. Like I said, it's fun for all ages, but also for those who, especially if you didn't get a chance to visit the volcano, you will now get the opportunity to visually see it from, perspective, of course, April and Martin. But I think from an Icelander's perspective,
the contributors also, the contributors were key with
the local
Ragnar's photographs and Adam's footage, and we got footage from another person, Scott Hurst, who was there in June and also volunteered to give us some drone footage. Nice. So, we and there was Leon Fry also, who is a in Switzerland, and he was there, and he gave us some as well. So we had a lot of great contributors that we're very, very thankful for this, and it is it's on Prime Video in the US and UK only.
Okay.
But it's on Vimeo on demand worldwide, and it has 10 caption options, including Icelandic. Nice. I have no idea if they're any good, but
hopefully. Okay. Well, thank you for adding that, because I wasn't aware that the Prime was only in those 2 countries, but it's good that you have the Vimeo option as well. So great. Because there's lots of different people interested in Iceland around the world, and I'm sure would love to see this.
Yes, and rightly so. It's an incredible experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, April. I look forward to meeting you in person and not too long from now on the anniversary.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Thank you so much for having me. I
my
appreciate it
pleasure.
very much. And I love your series. Your series is great.
Thank you. I
Your
appreciate that.
series of podcasts and broadcasts.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to share, and I just love that I get these opportunities. So, thank you to everybody watching and or listening, and we'll see you in the next video.